Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about combat, specifically combat system of different games and why that combat system is fun to engage with. Now according to me there are two types of combat, enemy oriented combat and character oriented combat. And now in this part of the video I want to talk about enemy oriented combat, which is basically stuff like Dark Souls and Sekiro. The player is forced into playing defensively and the enemies dictate the flow of combat. This type of combat is best when you're fighting a single enemy, especially a boss, because the movement system of this type of combat doesn't really work against mobs and groups of enemies. Enemy oriented combat forces you to be defensive, while character oriented combat forces you to be aggressive, where the player is encouraged to pull off cool combos while not taking damage. That is why character-oriented games have features like the style system. And there is another genre which has character-oriented combat and is very different from the hack and slash games, known as beat 'em ups. But I'm going to talk about that in the next segment. And now I have created a clip to show you what enemy-oriented combat is like. Now, Sifu is a beat 'em up game which is very different from the hack and slash games. At its core, combat uses light and heavy attacks chained into fluid combos in Sifu. You can block, dodge, or use directional parries to deflect attacks. Timing is key. Parries open enemies up for counters, while dodges let you avoid heavy hits. The structure meter works like the posture in Sekiro. Both you and enemies have it. Filling the enemy's structure lets you perform a finishing move, while if yours breaks, you're vulnerable. Combat emphasizes environmental awareness. You can grab bottles, bats, and pipes or slam enemies into walls and furniture for advantage. Finally, the aging mechanic adds stakes. Each death makes you older, trading maximum health for stronger attacks, so mastery of combat becomes essential to survive. Light attacks are fast, great for strings and interrupting enemies. Heavy attacks are slower, but powerful and useful for breaking enemy defenses. These can be chained into combos, many of which unlock as you progress. The game rewards creativity. You can switch between attack types, throws, and takedowns to stay unpredictable. Blocking reduces damage but still builds your structure meter. Dodging avoids attacks completely, letting you reposition. Parrying is the most rewarding. Timed correctly, it deflects attacks and opens enemies up for counters. And the structure meter is the heart of Sifu's combat. Both you and your enemies have one. Land enough strikes or well-timed parries and the enemy structure breaks, leaving them vulnerable to a finishing move. But if your own structure breaks, you'll be staggered and at risk. Do you play aggressively or pressure their structure carefully to protect your own? It's a counter-based combat system, where you have to perfectly time your dodges. It's kind of like the Arkham games. You can grab weapons like pipes, bats, and bottles to gain an edge. You can smash enemies into walls or tables or windows to do extra damage. Even something as simple as throwing an enemy can stun a tough opponent and give you breathing room. This encourages you to stay aware of your surroundings. Every room becomes a potential battlefield with unique advantages. With age, your maximum health decreases, but your attack power increases. This creates a unique risk-reward system. Dying makes you more dangerous but also more fragile. The further you progress while older, the higher the stakes, since you can't take as many hits. This mechanic makes every encounter feel tense because mistakes don't just cost time, they literally change your character's ability and survival chances. Added move seamlessly between strikes, parries, takedowns, and environmental attacks against groups. You control the crowd, pushing one opponent back, throwing another into a wall, disarming a third. The system rewards mastery and patience when you play well. And to talk about Sifu's combat in a single video would just make the video boring, because the combat system is that in-depth and complex. And for me to talk about that in this video, in a single video, would just make the video boring. So I created a clip to show you what Sifu's combat is like. And here's the clip. Sekiro's combat has four main mechanics. They are the posture system, the deflect mechanic, the Mikiri counter and perilous attacks, the prosthetic tools, and combat arts. Now the posture system. Every character including the player and enemies has a posture bar. Landing attacks, deflecting enemy attacks, or applying pressure will fill this bar. When the posture bar is maxed out, the opponent becomes vulnerable to a death blow, which instantly ends the fight, or removes one of their health bars. This shifts combat away from slowly chipping at health and toward aggressively breaking posture. Now deflecting. The central skill is to deflect, pressing the block button at the exact moment of an enemy's attack. A successful deflect doesn't just block damage, it damages the enemy's posture. Continuous deflections create a back and forth rhythm, almost like a sword duel. This makes the combat super tense. Some enemies use perilous attacks marked with the kanji symbol. These attacks cannot be blocked normally, but each type has a specific counter. Thrust attacks can be countered with the Mikiri counter. A stylish move is step into the attack and stomp the enemy's weapon. Sweeps must be jumped over to avoid damage. Grabs must be dodged. This system forces the player to quickly recognize attack types and respond correctly. Sekiro's Shinobi prosthetic grants tools like Shuriken, Axe, and Firecracker. Each tool can be combined with swordplay for tactical advantages, stunning enemies, breaking shields, or interrupting beasts. On top of this, combat arts are special sword techniques that add variety and depth, such as spinning slashes and lunging strikes. Sekiro's combat is designed to be relentless and aggressive, unlike Dark Souls where defense and stamina management dominate. Sekiro pushes you to stay on the offensive, maintaining pressure to overwhelm the enemy's posture. And the enemies are designed to teach mechanics. For example, early samurai enemies teach the importance of deflecting, how mini bosses like the spear generals force you to master the Mikiri counter. And victories come only through skill, not through character stats. Now at the start, players usually approach combat defensively, blocking or dodging like in other games, but Sekiro quickly punishes that. Basic enemies chip away at your posture and mini bosses force you to learn deflect timing. The game forces you into aggression. For example, the first samurai generals are designed to make you practice Mikiri counters. By the time you face bosses like Lady Butterfly, Genichiro, or Guardian Ape, you're expected to combine deflection, counters, and prosthetic tools fluidly. Sekiro constantly reuses mechanics in new ways, so each boss feels fresh but still builds on what you've learned. Fights against Ishin or the Ao demand complete mastery of rhythm, posture control, and confidence, and you can't cheese the game or grind your way out. Sword wielding enemies are the core of the combat design. They push posture battles, testing your timing and reactions. Each one feels like a small scale boss fight. Because posture damage swings both ways, you can be punished as quickly as they can. To break the rhythm, Sekiro introduces giant creatures like the Headless Ape, Corrupted Monk, or Folding Screen Monkeys. Now the Folding Screen Monkeys and the Guardian Ape are the most annoying bosses in the game. These fights test adaptability. Sometimes posture isn't the main focus and you need to rely on prosthetics, firecrackers, or creative strategies. This contrast keeps combat unpredictable and dynamic. The game occasionally throws groups at you like Ashina soldiers or bandits. These situations emphasize stealth and smart positioning, reminding you that Sekiro isn't just about duels but also about being a shinobi. Unlike From Software's other games, Sekiro gives you the ability to crouch, sneak, and eavesdrop on enemies. You can bypass groups or eliminate threats silently before combat begins. Stealth isn't just optional, it's often essential when facing large groups of soldiers or monks. Landing a stealth death blow can remove one health bar from a boss or instantly kill weaker enemies. This encourages planning and observation, making encounters feel more tactical. Grappling onto rooftops, hiding in grass, or ambushing from above ties exploration directly into combat. You're not just a warrior, you're a shinobi using every tool to tilt the odds in your favor. The Shinobi prosthetic transforms combat with unique attachments. The Shuriken interrupts area foes, the axe smashes shields, the spear pulls armor of enemies, and the flame vent terrifies beasts. Tools are rarely standalone, they shine when combined with katana techniques. For example, stunning an enemy with firecrackers gives you time to unleash a flurry of posture-breaking attacks. Tools cost spirit emblems, a consumable resource. This prevents spamming and forces smart usage, deciding when to unleash a tool or save it for a boss's second phase. Sekiro uses skill trees instead of RPG stat builds. You don't really need most of the moves in the skill tree except the Mikiri counter. Now combat arts like Ichimonji or Ashina Cross expand your movements, giving powerful options to mix into duels, unlike traditional combos. And you don't really need them to win duels or boss fights. You don't grind for strength or dexterity. Your growth comes from learning and unlocking new tools. This ensures that progression is tied to skill expression rather than numbers. And it rewards precision over passivity. And also talking about the group fights where you fight multiple enemies, it's still kinda jank. I know you're supposed to use stealth, but the stealth is also not that good. And Sekiro is the only FromSoft game that doesn't have shit bosses. Because majority of the bosses in Bloodborne are just pure shit. Like to name a few, the Shadows of Yharnam, Lawrence, the Celestial Emissaries, and the Living Failures, and also Miklash, which are just pure shit bosses. And I really love how the progression system works because it's different from other RPGs, or I don't consider Sekiro as an RPG game because it doesn't have a lot of the RPG elements like the bullshit leveling system, which I am not a big fan of. Like, I hate the leveling system in RPG games. That is one of the main reasons why I don't play a lot of RPG games, well, besides Dark Souls. But I've never replayed Dark Souls just because of that one thing. But Sekiro fixes that problem by making progression skill based, because if you don't know how to deflect and counter, you're not going to beat the game. Dark Souls does it better than most other games, where you don't really need to be at the recommended level to beat the game, unlike other traditional RPGs like The Witcher 3 or Assassin's Creed, which is one of the main reasons I never played those games. Or Cyberpunk 2077, I have never played that game. Now this has already been a really long segment and I know the video is getting boring, so I created a clip to show you what Sifu's combat is like. Here's the clip.